Hello everyone, my name is John Blanford. I'm the video team lead for Blug, and in this video I'm going to go over sort of the basic usage of OBS Studio. So OBS can do a lot of stuff. We're only going to use a small amount of its power. So in this video I'm going to focus in on the stuff we need to know about OBS. And then I'll follow up this video with two specific videos, one on how to do a recording and how to do a stream. And those two videos will focus on how do you do it in OBS, but also what are the other things we need to do at the fest, like keep records of what we've done and stuff like that. So, but this video will be just sort of basics of how you use OBS. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start up on that. And I've got here a controller. And remember, the controllers aren't built yet, so I'm using a virtual version of that. So I'm going to go ahead and log in. And VirtualBox will resize our window to make it a little bit bigger so we can see things a little better. And then if you remember from the video about the desktop, what we want to do is actually connect up to the recording system using remote desktop. So I'm going to run our remote desktop client, which is called Remina, and I'm going to connect up to Nook 2, which is one of them I have running here. And I log in to the remote desktop, and there is the remote desktop running on the Nook 2 machine. Okay. So to start OBS, I'm going to go up to my top menu here. I can actually type OBS and it'll come up that way. Or you can go down to Multimedia and OBS Studio. Or my favorite, I can just go to Recently Used, because that's usually the most commonly used program, and it's usually right at the top there. Either way, we're going to go ahead and run it. So here is the OBS screen, and let's talk about the parts here. At the top, some menus. We'll go through a couple of those menu options. Some of this stuff we're not going to really use that much. The central window here is the program window. This is what we're either recording or we're streaming, right? So right now it's set, it's got two active video sources. It's got a camera. You can see the back of my head there, and you can see a laptop window. So this laptop is actually running a web browser, right? So that's what we're seeing there. So this is the program window. And then down below here we have some dockable control windows. And this will be pretty much the setup that we'll use for the fest. Over here we have a list of scenes, and I'll talk about what these things mean here in a second. Scenes, sources within a particular scene, and then we have a two-part thing here. It's set to be a mixer, or we can click down here and get some statistics about CPU usage and frames per second and stuff like that. So again, I'll talk about each of those things in a second. And here we have some controls, which are essentially just buttons to do stuff. Now, of course, start streaming, start recording are probably the two most important buttons we have, and essentially the two other videos I'll make will be, okay, what do we do when we click on start recording or start streaming, stuff like that. But anyway, I'll talk more about that later. And studio mode, I'll show you here. It's an important sort of extra mode that we can do that helps us do some stuff. First of all, let me take a look at the settings here. Now, there's a whole bunch of settings in OBS, and they can be a little intimidating. I was certainly intimidated the first time I saw all these different things you can do or set in OBS. The nice thing for you guys is that we'll have done all the configuration for you, and we actually have an automated system called Ansible that we use to send configurations out to all the machines. So you shouldn't need to do anything in the settings areas. I'm just going to show it to you in case something anomalous comes up and you're told to go into the settings and change something. Well, this is the settings here. And you can see it's broken down into some sections. General, stream, output is really important. one that controls various aspects of the stream or recording process and so on, right? So as I said, you won't need to touch that, and we ask you also, don't go in here and change stuff unless you're asked to, or there's something, or don't go in there on your own and just make a bunch of changes, because we've spent a lot of time testing these configurations. They work, so unless you ask first, please don't change anything in the configuration. So one strange thing, if you do go in here, and I'll just show you really quickly, if you need to go in here, notice I don't have the buttons that say OK and stuff like that. This seems to be a little bit of an issue with the remote desktop. It's sometimes the window extends beyond where we can see. So what I'm going to do, I'll just make it a little smaller and then pull it up, and now you can see here's my buttons for saving it and stuff like that. So I'm going to go ahead and do cancel on that and show you one other thing about settings, and that's this profile thing. So OBS has the ability to save separate settings for different situations. So we're not really using that this year, but we already have a profile called LFNW, and it has all our settings that we pre-configured are in there. So if you want to, you can go into the profile and make sure that LFNW is always checked. If it's on untitled or something else, then we're going to have problems. So we want the profile always to be LFNW. That's the pre-created configuration that we've done for you. Okay? So let's talk a little bit about scenes, because that's probably the most important thing that you'll be interacting with. So I'm going to focus on what a scene is, and then when we get to the video about how we're going to be doing our recordings and streaming, I'll show you how we're going to use them in sort of a detailed way. But first of all, let's understand what a scene is. So notice I've got some scenes. This one's called camera and laptop. This one's called laptop full screen. This one's called camera full screen, and so on, right? And we've tried to name the scenes to be descriptive about what's in the recording area, what's in the program area. So in this case, the camera and laptop is our sort of normal recording and streaming scene. In other words, we have a number of sources in here. We've got a source which is our external camera. In this case, it's a Logitech webcam. This is the laptop capture over here. And then we have a background that includes a colored image and a logo, right? So that's what this is showing here. Here's the laptop capture. I take that off, you can see that it shows me, oh, that's the laptop capture. I can go there, there's my camera. If I go here, here's the background, right? And the background has both the blue image and the logo on it. Notice one of the things that if you look here really closely, there's two little icons next to each of the sources that's in a particular scene. This one, locking, most of the time should be locked because one of the limitations with OBS, it's easy to select a source in the program area and like accidentally move it around or do something like that, and there's no real undo. So instead of that, we lock these guys down, which means that you can't move them accidentally. So you should see in most cases all the sources will be locked down because we don't want to accidentally move them around. Now we can switch to a different scene just by clicking on it. So if I go laptop full screen, notice that this scene only has a laptop and the background and the microphone. In other words, we've set the laptop to be the full program area, right? Camera full screen, we've set the camera input to be the full program area. And if I click back on this, now we've got the split screen where we have the camera and the laptop capture over here, right? So you control what's in the program area up here by just clicking on the particular scene, and the scene has appropriate sources. That's what the names here are trying to describe to you what's in that. So this scene has the camera and the laptop. This scene only has the laptop. This scene has camera only. Right. Now these other guys down here are title screens, and these are used primarily for the streaming. And you can see like this one is a title screen with a little message that says go to this URL and you'll see our schedule for the stream. Right. So scenes over here, each scene is made up of a number of sources, and in fact I'm going to go ahead and lock that guy because I didn't have them locked. Yep. And you just move between them like this. Now why we'll want to move between them and what situations and stuff like that, for the other video I'll talk about that. But anyway, that's what this is. It controls the sources and controls the scenes, which are made up of a bunch of sources, and you can move between them. The mixer here is probably not all that useful for us. We're not going to be changing anything like this. It looks like it's going to be a mixer for like how loud is the microphone, but really what it's used for is if you have multiple audio input sources, you can mix them into a single track using the mixer. Since we only have one microphone, we're not really going to be using this feature, and the slider should be all the way over to the top always. Right? If you do need to change the loudness of the microphone, you have to do it through the operating system, through the desktop's tools. So if we go up here, this little guy right here, which is comes from the XFCE desktop, and it has the little sliders here. You can change the input loudness for each of these. Notice we've got two Yetis here. I'm not sure why that's true, but the best thing to do is to click on the audio mixer, and this is the one that's sort of the best thing to control that. And if we go into the input devices, notice this one says Yeti stereo microphone analog, right? So this is where we would control the loudness of the microphone. Yeah. This one doesn't control the loudness of the microphone, even though it looks like it might. It doesn't. Stats here are some CPU stuff. The main thing is we don't want to miss frames due to rendering lag, so we want to keep that as low as possible. Right. And also for you got some stuff about the streaming statistics down here also, and controls over here. So last little thing that's important. Oh, one more thing before we do that: scene collections. So if we go up here, notice that like profiles, we have an LFNW profile. We also have an LFNW scene collection. So again, OBS has the ability to save a bunch of scenes together to be used for a particular situation. So we really only have one, which is this LFNW record stream collection, which is this stuff down here. And see if I select it untitled, notice all our scenes and sources go away, and that would not be good. So we want to always have LFNW record stream as our scene collection that's active. Okay. One more thing I should show you here, why just a small issue but probably important. Notice that we have the microphone in the camera and laptop scene, the laptop full screen, and in the camera full screen we all have the microphone. But in the title screen, notice we no longer have the microphone. So that means when we show the title screen, we're not, nothing coming out of the microphone is going to go into the stream. More about that when we talk about streaming, but just notice that it disappears, the blue microphone disappears in these. So basic stuff, the ability to select a scene. You don't need to do a lot of configuration. There is a situation when we're doing streaming where it would be nice to be able to change scenes in a two-step process, and that's what this studio mode is about here. So when we do studio mode, notice we've got two windows up there. One says preview and the other says program. So whatever's in the program window is what's currently being either recorded or streamed. Right? So say you want to preview the change over here and then push it over to the actual program. So say I wanted to go camera full screen. I've clicked on it here, and notice in the preview I've got the full screen camera scene up here. But that's not what's being recorded or streamed. This is just a preview. If I want to actually make that live, I need to move it from here over to the program window. And I can do that using a cut or a fade. Usually we're going to use a cut because that just does it immediately. So if I click on cut, notice that now what was over here is now in the program window, and this is now being recorded or streamed. Right? So that's the studio mode allows you to do a two-step process like that. Why would you want to do that? Well, we'll probably want to do it for streaming. So say for example, if I got title for here, I'm going to add that. So this is currently, say we started to stream, it's out there streaming it. And now we're waiting for the presenter to actually arrive and hook up his laptop and all that kind of stuff. So over here we go to this and we wait until we know the presenter's all ready to go, and then we click on cut, and that brings us live with the different scene being streamed out. So anyway, studio mode is optional. We just use it for particular situations where we want to preview what we're going to show before we actually make it live. And to get out of it, you just go like this. Now we're back into just program mode, and if I do something here, this is immediately live. In other words, we changed it immediately for the recording or the stream. If we're not in studio mode, it's immediate. Okay. So I think that's about what I need to show you in here. These other things like tools and stuff like that, we're not really going to be using in here. One little thing that I should show you here. Again, you probably won't need to touch this. Notice the blue microphone here. You can get into configuration stuff for it by clicking on that little gear. And there is a property that we set. Hopefully you won't need to change this, but I'll just show it to you. And it's in the, let me do that again. It's in the advanced audio properties. And notice this sync offset set to 200. If you've ever noticed recordings where the lips don't match what the person is saying, that's an AV sync issue, right? And what usually happens is the audio arrives much faster than the video does. And you need to slow the audio down so the audio matches the movement of the lips of the person speaking. So that's what this is about. I've preset this at 200 millisecond offsets. In other words, we're going to delay the audio by 200 milliseconds to try and get it to sync up properly with the video. Probably won't need to change this, but if someone tells you, hey, we need to increase the delay on the audio, this is where you would do it. You would go in here for the advanced audio properties, and you would just change this sync offset for it. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and exit back out here. We will disconnect from our remote desktop, and then I'm going to log out of my controller. Okay, so that's this video, sort of really quickly review of the basic features of OBS. The other stuff that's in OBS we're not going to be doing, and as I said, it's all pre-configured, so you shouldn't need to go through all the different little menus and stuff like that, so it should be relatively straightforward. The next two videos, we'll press the stream button and we'll press the record button and see what happens and see what we need to do to make it all work and stuff like that. But thanks for listening to this one.